Hi everyone, welcome back to the Puttering Penman. Today, I'm going to be comparing the Pelikan M800 and the Pilot Custom 823. So these are two pens that a lot of people consider when they're thinking about pens above $300. This is the Pilot Custom 823 in the amber color. It also comes in a clear demonstrator color and a smoke, which is a more black, translucent color. All of them come with gold trim. I have had this pen for 6 years now. And then this is my Pelikan M800 brown black. This was a limited edition, so you may not be able to get this particular color anymore. But it does come in, these stripes would be blue, red, green. There's also a pure black version that would have a little ink window right about here. And the M800 comes with gold trim, and then there's the M805, which comes with a silver. And then there's a M80. This is the M800, which comes with gold trim, and then there's also an M805, which comes with silver colored trim. Pelikan also makes limited edition colors of this pen from time to time, and so you may be able to find a different color that you want. Like, at the moment, they have a green demonstrator M800. So some of the differences between this pen, the big difference, I think, is that the Pelikan M800 and M805 is a piston filler fountain pen. So, you screw the knob back here, and a piston will come back and forth here, and that allows you to fill and clean the pen. This pen is inked, so I'm not going to do that. The Pelikan M800 is a vacuum filling pen, which is fairly unique in the fountain pen world. So you unscrew the knob back here, and then you pull it back. Then you dip the pen in a bottle of ink and push the piston down. It creates pressure back here, and then once it reaches about this level, air can be sucked in. Really, when it's in a bottle of ink, ink will be sucked in and fill up this barrel. I have a separate video about how to fill a vacuum filling fountain pen. So the advantage of a vacuum filling fountain pen is that it holds a lot more ink. This particular pen holds 2.5 milliliters of ink, and then this particular pen holds 1.5 milliliters of ink, so that's a whole milliliter of ink, which is a lot. That's like more than most converters hold. One thing to note is that if you like the look of the 823 and the way it writes, but don't like the vacuum filling fountain pen, Pilot also sells a Pilot Custom 743, which is basically the Pilot Custom 823, but as a cartridge converter pen. I have a separate video on my channel comparing the 823 and the 743, so you can check that out if you like the 823 but don't like vacuum filling fountain pens. You can hear more about the 743. Some other differences, Pelikan sells the M800 and M805 in an extra fine nib, a fine nib, a medium nib, and a broad nib. You might be able to find some other nib choices, like maybe a cursive italic or something like that. They're not super common here in the US, but I think they're more common in Europe. And they also used to be more common in the past. I'm not sure if Pelikan changed anything, but while I was looking online prepping for this video, I couldn't really find any US retailers selling those types of nibs, so I'm not sure about their availability. Also, these Pelikan nib units are interchangeable, so you can screw out the nib, and then the nib and feed will come out, and then you can, if you have like multiple M800s and like one is a fine and another one's a medium, like you could swap those nibs, which is nice. The Pilot Custom 823 comes in only fine, medium, and broad, at least here in the US. If you order directly from Japan, you can get a lot of different types of nibs, like the FA nib, a posting nib, a signature nib. The signature nib actually is now available in the US, but in Japan they're like even more. You can get an extra fine, coarse nib, lots of options if you order directly from Japan. Aesthetically, the nib on the 823 is one single tone gold nib, is 14 karat gold. I think it looks very nice, looks very clean. The Pelikan M800 is an 18 karat gold nib, but it's two-toned. And also looks very nice. Some other differences, so for the screw cap, the M800 is roughly about one turn to unscrew. The Pilot Custom 823 is about 1.5 turns. Not a huge difference, but that 1 turn to 1.5 turn is the difference between a second twist and just one twist to uncap the pen. You know, apart from piston filler versus vacuum filler, one of the reasons you may choose one pen over another is the aesthetic. Pelikan's aesthetic is, I think, very nice, looks classic, looks a bit older style. And then the 823 looks a bit more modern, perhaps more of like a old-fashioned executive style. This pen is clear, of course, so there's also that, easier to see the ink level, but perhaps might look a bit less professional, depends on your opinion. If the demonstrator does bother you, again, the 743 is not a demonstrator, it's a completely clear pen. This is the dark red color, it might be deep red actually, but it also comes in black, and in the US they now have like a greenish teal color as well. Talking about the nibs now, Pelikan nibs tend to write broader than Pilot nibs, so this is a fine, the ink is a J-Herbon Rouge Granette. So that's a Pelikan fine. Again, my Pilot Custom 823 is not inked. I have a medium nib on it, but it is the exact same nib and feed as my Pilot Custom 743, which I do have inked. The ink is Pilot Green, but so obviously the inks are different here, but as you can see, the Pelikan Fine is very similar to the Pilot Custom 823 Medium. So that is one thing to note. If you like fine nibs, the Pilot may be the way to go. If you like broader nibs, the Pelikan might be the way to go. Another difference, Pelikan nibs tend to be very wet and generous with ink flow. So if you like wetter pens, you may want to go with the Pelikan. Pilot pens are also fairly wet, but not known to be as wet as Pelikan pens. For my writing style, the Pilot 823 nib in medium is basically perfect. It's the smoothest nib in my collection for the way I write. I really like the way the ink flows out of it. It's basically, if there's a pen I want to pick up because I want an enjoyable writing experience, I definitely go with the 823 or the 743 because they're the same nib and feed on these pens. One thing, so the build quality is quite solid on Pilot pens, but I do feel like the Pelikan build quality is just like at a slightly higher level. Like they might, again, this is a very nicely built pen, but something about this just feels more solid, probably because it's just slightly heavier. But also might be because the piston mechanism in here is metal. For my hand, I find the M800 just a bit back heavy, whereas I find the Pilot Custom 823 very well balanced. Part of that is that the vacuum filler, the metal for it goes all the way up to close to the section of the pen, so it's a little bit better balanced for me. I have had issues with both of these pens. From what I've heard, it's not typical, but I've had issues with both of them. For the Pilot, twice now, I have had the threads back here get stripped. So basically, what I did is I sent it to Pilot USA. I had to pay for shipping to them, but they did the repair for free and sent it back to me without charging me any shipping. I've done that twice now over the 6 years I've owned the pen, but I have not had this pen inked for probably 3 years now because I've switched over to using the cartridge converter version of the 743, which I just think is lower maintenance, and I don't really like vacuum fillers, which is why I bought this pen. The Pelikan came, as I've said many times on the other videos on my channel that feature this pen, came with tines that were misaligned. Now, from what I hear, that's very unusual for Pelikan pens. I did pick this pen up for sale, so that might be part of the reason why, although it wasn't disclosed, and I don't think that should be, an acceptable reason to have tines misaligned, but I did have the tines misaligned. I had a Nibmeister fix it. This pen writes beautifully, but it was scratchy when writing going toward the right. And then finally, the last difference that might sway your decision one way or the other is the price on these pens. Currently, the Pilot Custom 823 sells for about $330. I think it's exactly $336. Depending on, which manufacturer, which retailer you look at. And then the Pelikan M800 prices tend to be varied depending on if they're limited editions or which retailer you look at, but it generally ranges anywhere from $600 to $800. I picked this pen up for sale for I think it was $525 in 2021. But this pen, can be nearly double the price of the 823. So I think when you're thinking about which of these pens you want to buy, you'll want to think about the aesthetic, if you prefer a piston filler or a vacuum filler, or if you want a cartridge converter, think about the Pilot Custom 743, and then also the price. I think those are really the three main big differences that might sway someone one way or the other. If I had to pick one of these two pens, I would probably pick the M800 because I don't like vacuum filling pens. But like I said, this is the best writing pen in my collection. And because I don't like the vacuum fillers, I picked up the 743, which is the same nib, same feed, same writing experience, just with a cartridge converter. So, of the three pens, the 743 would win out. Of these two pens, the M800 would win out. So I'm not sure if that helps you, but that is how I would make the decision if I had to again. So with that, please let me know if you have any comments below, and I will see you next time. Bye.